A rat can squeeze through a hole the size of a quarter. And once one gets in, you don't have one rat. You have a family. But here is the part nobody at the hardware store will tell you. The thing that finally gets rid of them costs less than a single cup of coffee. It is sitting in your kitchen right now. And my people have used it for longer than your grandfather has been alive. I was raised plain, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. No electric lines running to the barn. No exterminator's truck pulling up the lane with a clipboard and a bill. When the rats came for our grain, and they always came, we handled it the way my grandfather handled it and the way his father handled it before him. Quiet, cheap, with things we already owned. And it worked. It worked better than the poisons the English buy by the bagful today. So before I show you the one trick that empties a barn of rats faster than anything you have ever tried, do me a small favor. Tell me down in the comments where you are sitting right now. Just your state or your county. I want to see how far this old knowledge travels. Because a man in Texas has a different rat than a man in Ohio. And I will tell you why that matters before we are through. Now stay with me. Because right around the middle of this, I am going to show you a trap my father built out of a 5-gallon bucket and a scrap of wood. It cost nothing, and on one cold night in November, that bucket caught 11 rats while we slept. 11. I counted them myself. Standing there in the gray morning light with my breath fogging in front of me, I will show you exactly how he built it. But first, you need to understand who is making money off your rat problem. Because somebody is, and it is a lot of money. Here is what happens to most folks. You see the droppings first, little dark grains along the baseboard, behind the stove, in the corner of the pantry. Then you hear them. That scratching in the wall at 2 in the morning, that makes the back of your neck go cold. Then one day you open the cupboard and a whole bag of flour has been chewed open and fouled, and you have to throw the entire thing in the trash. So you do what everybody does. You drive to the big store, you stand in that aisle with the bright packages, and a young fellow in an apron points you to the most expensive box. Poison blocks, bait stations, a snap trap that promises to be the last one you will ever need. You spend $40, maybe $60, and for a week, you think it worked. Then the smell comes. Because here is the dirty little secret of those poison blocks. The rat eats the bait, but it does not die where you can find it. It crawls back into your wall, into the floor joist, into a spot you cannot reach, and it dies there, and it rots there. For 2, sometimes 3 weeks, your home smells of death, and there is not a thing you can do about it, but wait. And the rats keep coming, because you killed 1 or 2, and a single female rat can have a new litter every 3 weeks, up to 12 pups at a time. Do that math across a year, and 1 pair of rats becomes hundreds. You are not fighting the rats you can see. You are losing to the ones you cannot. So you go back to the store, you buy more. Different brand this time, stronger, the package says. Another $40. And it goes on like that, month after month, until you have spent $200-300 in a year, and the scratching in the wall has never once gone quiet. Now you call the professional, and the truck comes up the lane, just like I said, and he writes you a number that makes your stomach drop. $300 for the first visit, a monthly plan after that, year after year, draining out of your pocket like water through a cracked bucket. That is the business. That is the whole business. Not killing your rats, keeping you a customer, because a man whose rats are gone forever never comes back and never spends another dollar. They have no reason in the world to tell you about the thing in your kitchen cabinet that would end this for good. It would put them out of work. My people were never their customers. And I am about to tell you why. The first thing you have to understand about a rat is the strangest fact I know about any animal. A rat cannot throw up. It cannot vomit. Not when it is sick, not when it eats something rotten, not ever. Its body is simply not built for it. The muscle that you and I use to bring up something bad, the rat does not have it working that way. Now think about what that means for a creature that lives by eating garbage. A rat that cannot vomit cannot afford to make one mistake about its food. One bad bite, and it has no way to get it back out. So the rat became the most careful eater in all of nature. We call it neophobia, fear of the new. Researchers at universities have measured this, and the numbers are remarkable. When a rat finds a new food or a new object in a place it knows well, it will not touch that new thing, not for hours, often not for days. It will run a wide circle around a brand new trap sitting in the middle of its own pathway and refuse to go near it for 3 or 4 days straight. My grandfather did not know the word neophobia. He could not have spelled it. But he knew the thing itself deep in his bones because he had watched rats his whole life. He told me when I was a boy, never set a fresh trap and expect to catch anything the first night. He said, you have to let the barn get used to it. He would set a trap with no bait at all, leave it unset, and let the rats walk over it and around it for 3 or 4 days until they learned it was nothing to fear. Then, on the 4th night, he would bait it and set it. And in the morning, it had done its work. The English buy a trap, slap it down at supper time, catch nothing by morning, and decide the trap is no good. They throw it out and buy a poison instead. They never knew they were 3 days too early. They were fighting a creature whose whole nature is patience, and they had none. So that is your first free lesson, and it costs you nothing but a little waiting. Whatever trap you own right now, set it out unset and unbaited for 3 days. Let the rats teach themselves that it is harmless, then bait it and set it on the 4th night. You will catch more in one night than you caught in the last month, because now you are working with the animal's nature instead of against it. But knowing when to set the trap is only half of it, because there is a second thing about a rat that decides whether you catch it or not, and almost nobody places their traps the way they should. A rat does not see well, hardly at all, really. Those little black eyes are nearly useless to it in the dark of your walls in your barn. So the rat does not navigate by sight the way you and I do. It navigates by touch. It runs with one whisker, one side of its body, brushing against a wall the whole way. Scientists gave this a name too, thigmotaxis. It just means the animal loves to keep its body pressed against something solid as it moves. A rat almost never runs across the open middle of a room. It feels naked out there, exposed to the hawk, the cat, the owl, so it hugs the wall, it runs the baseboard, the edge of the foundation, the seam where the floor meets the barn, siding. It travels the same little highways night after night, and it leaves a faint greasy smudge along the wall where its dirty fur rubs the same path 1,000 times. Go look. Right now or tonight. Take a flashlight along your baseboards, behind the appliances, along the bottom of the barn wall. When you find a dark greasy little smear, you have found their road. That is where they run. And that is where 99 out of 100 people set their trap wrong. They put it out in the open, in the middle of the floor, trigger end facing nowhere, like a man fishing in a parking lot. The rat never crosses there. It runs the wall 3 feet away and never even smells the bait. You set the trap flush against the wall, tight against it, with the trigger, the business end, pointed in toward the wall so the rat hits it head on as it runs its highway. Set 2 of them back to back, so it does not matter which direction the rat is traveling. Do it on the greasy path. Do it on the 4th night after the rat has gotten used to the trap being there. My grandfather did all of this by feel. He would crouch down in the barn with a lantern and run his thumb along the bottom board until he found the grease, and he would grunt, "There's the road," and that is where the trap went. Every time, the land-grant universities only put numbers and Latin names to it in the last 50 years. We had it for 200, so now you know when and you know where. But there is still the question of what pulls them in and what drives them out. And this is where the dollar store staple comes in. Because you can do better than wait for a rat to wander into a trap. You can make your whole home a place a rat refuses to enter. If you want to go deeper than one video can carry you, every method I have just described and dozens more my family never filmed are written out in full in a book I put together for people exactly like you. It is called The Garden Blueprint Old-Fashioned Pest Cures That Cost Pennies, and it sits alongside the Harvest Blueprint Amish Soil and Storage Secrets for Bigger Yields, both collected together in the Complete Garden Field Edition. For $97, you get the whole of it, the kind of plain, practical knowledge that used to pass from hand to hand over a fence, now written down so it does not get lost again. You can find it linked in the description below. Now, back to the trap itself, because knowing when and where is only half of it. Let me tell you about peppermint. A rat lives by its nose the way you live by your eyes. Its sense of smell is its whole world. It finds food by smell. It finds its family by smell. It finds danger by smell. And that beautiful, powerful nose is also its great weakness, because a smell strong enough will overwhelm it completely and send it running. Peppermint oil does exactly that. The sharp menthol in real peppermint is so strong to that sensitive nose that the rat cannot stand to be near it. It floods out everything else. The rat cannot smell its food, cannot smell the trail it laid down, cannot smell danger coming. To a rat, walking into a cloud of peppermint is like you walking into a room full of choking smoke. It will not stay. It turns around and leaves. Now, I have to be honest with you, the way my grandfather was always honest with me, because half-truths are how the store gets your money. Peppermint alone will not kill an established colony. The English buy a little bottle, sprinkle a few drops, and expect a miracle, and when it does not happen, they say it is all foolishness. That is not how to use it. Here is how. You take cotton balls, the cheap kind, and you soak them good with real peppermint essential oil. Not the candle scent, not the air freshener, the real oil. You tuck those soaked cotton balls right at the entry points, in the hole under the sink, at the gap where the pipe comes through the wall. Along that greasy highway you found with the flashlight, you are not trying to perfume the room. You are building a wall of smell across their roads. And you have to freshen it. The oil fades in a week, maybe less in a dry house. So once a week you re-soak those cotton balls. A bottle of peppermint oil costs a few dollars and lasts you months. Compare that to the exterminator's monthly bill. What the peppermint does is push the rats toward the doors you want them at and away from the food in the nesting spots. You close off the kitchen with the smell. You close off the pantry. And you funnel them the way you funnel sheep through a gate toward the one spot where your trap is waiting on their highway. That is the whole system. Smell to push, trap to catch, patience to win. And here I want to say something to those of you thinking, this is fine for a man with a barn, but I have an old house, an established place, finished walls, 50 years lived in, and I cannot tear it apart looking for rat highways. I hear you. My own mother kept a kitchen that was 80 years old when I was a boy, and you could not go ripping out her walls. You do not have to. This works on the home you already have, exactly as it stands, and you can start this very weekend with nothing you do not already own. Here is what you do this weekend. First, walk the outside of your house slow on your hands and knees if your body still allows it. You are looking for any hole a quarter could pass through. Around the dryer vent where the gas line enters. Under the porch. The gaps up under the eaves. Rats are climbers. Do not forget to look up. Now the staple that seals them out is steel wool. The plain steel wool from the cleaning aisle, $1 or $2 for a pack. A rat can chew through wood, through plastic, through soft metal, through concrete that is not fully cured, but it cannot chew through steel wool because the sharp little fibers hurt its mouth and it will not keep at it. You pack steel wool tight into every hole you found. Tight so it does not pull out. For the bigger gaps, you stuff the steel wool in and seal over it with a little caulk or even a wad of that expanding foam, but the steel wool is the part that stops the teeth. Foam alone, they chew right through. Foam over steel wool, they quit. That one afternoon, crawling your foundation with a bag of steel wool will do more than a year of poison. Because here is the truth, the whole industry depends on you never learning. You do not have a rat problem. You have a hole problem. The rats are just walking through the doors you left open. Close the doors, and there is nothing for the exterminator to come back for. And now we come to the bucket. The thing I promised you at the start. The trap my father built that caught 11 in one night while we slept warm in our beds. You take a 5-gallon bucket. Every one of you has one, or can get one for a few dollars. You take a length of stiff wire, or a thin metal rod, or even a wooden dowel, and you run it straight through the top of the bucket, side to side, like an axle. Through the middle of that wire, before you put it across, you slide an empty soda can, so the can spins free on the wire like a little roller. Now you smear that can with something the rat wants. Peanut butter is what we use. A thin coat all the way around the can. You fill the bucket about 1/3 of the way with water. And you lean a board, a scrap of wood, a ruler, anything up against the rim like a ramp, a little gangplank running from the floor up to the edge. The rat smells the peanut butter. It climbs the ramp because you have set the ramp right on its wall-hugging highway. It reaches the top and it steps out onto the can to get the peanut butter, and the can spins. The rat's feet shoot out from under it, and it drops straight down into the water and cannot climb the slick plastic sides back out. And here is the thing that made my father's bucket catch 11. The can resets itself. It spins back around. The peanut butter is still there. The ramp is still there. And the bucket is ready for the next rat 30 seconds later. A snap trap catches one and then sits there, sprung and useless all night. The bucket catches every rat that comes, all night long, one after another, and asks nothing of you. You set it before bed and you empty it after breakfast. You can run it dry instead of with water if you would rather not drown them with a taller bucket and a one-way path, and check it in the morning to carry them off live to a far field. My grandfather was not sentimental about a rat in the grain, but how you finish the job is between you and your conscience. The catching part is the same either way, and it costs you almost nothing. That bucket is older than any of us. Farmers were building some version of it before there was a single brand name on a single box of poison. And it still outcatches every $40 contraption in that store aisle because it works with the rat's own nature. It climbs because that is what it does. It hugs the wall to reach the ramp because that is what it does. You are not fighting the animal. You are letting the animal walk itself into the bucket. Now, why does any of this matter so much? Why not just keep buying the poison and the monthly visits like everybody else? Because of what the poison really does beyond your wall. When you put out those bait blocks, the rat does not die right away. It carries that poison in its body for days, sick and slow. And in those days, the cat catches it, the owl catches it, the hawk, the fox, the neighbor's dog. They eat the poisoned rat, and the poison passes right into them, and it kills the very animals that were hunting your rats for free. Think about that. The barn cat is the oldest rat control there ever was. The owl in your tree will take a dozen rats a week and never send you a bill. And the poison from the store kills them right alongside the rats, so that every year you have fewer natural hunters and more rats, and you need more poison, and you are deeper in their pocket than the year before. My people kept cats in the barn for 300 years for one reason. They worked. A good mouser earned her keep 10 times over and cost us nothing but the milk in her dish. We never broke that chain by poisoning the very hunters we depended on. The English broke it without ever knowing they did, and then wondered why the rats kept getting worse. There is a study out of the universities that looked at the bodies of hawks and owls found dead, and the number that turned my stomach was how many of them carried that rat poison in their blood. The great majority of them, bird after bird, full of the poison meant for a rat, dead in a field when all it had done was eat the rat that was already going to die. You do not just pay the store with your dollars, you pay with the hunters that worked for you for free. So here is where we have come, to wait the 3 days for their fear to fade, to set the trap tight on the greasy wall road, the peppermint to push them and the steel wool to seal them out in the bucket to catch them by the dozen. Every bit of it cheap, every bit of it sitting in your house or $1 away. But I promised you one last thing at the very start. The secret, the one that empties the place when the rats have already moved in deep and will not leave. The thing my grandmother kept in a tin on the high shelf and brought down only when the problem had gotten bad. And it is the cheapest of them all. Baking soda. The same plain white box that has sat in your refrigerator and your baking cupboard your whole life. A box costs about $1, and it is the one thing a rat's strange, broken stomach cannot survive. Remember the very first thing I told you? A rat cannot vomit. It cannot bring anything back up, ever. Hold on to that, because it is the whole secret. When baking soda meets the acid in a stomach, it does what it does in your bread dough. It fizzes. It makes gas. Carbon dioxide gas, you have seen it foam up in a glass. Now picture that happening inside an animal that physically cannot burp it up and cannot throw it up. The gas has nowhere to go. It builds, and it builds with no way out, and it is more than the rat's insides can take. You and I would simply belch and be fine. The rat has no such escape. The one thing it cannot do is the one thing that would save it, but you cannot just leave a pile of baking soda out because of that neophobia, that fear of the new, and because on its own, the rat has no reason to eat it. So my grandmother did what the old wisdom always did. She hid it inside something the rat could not resist. She mixed it. Equal parts. 1 part baking soda, 1 part flour, 1 part sugar, or a little powdered cocoa. The flour and the sugar smell like food. like the very grain the rat came for. They mask the soda completely. The rat tastes only the sweet flour, eats its fill, and the baking soda rides in hidden with it. You set that mixture in a shallow lid right on the greasy highway, tight against the wall after the 3 days of letting them grow, used to it being there. You keep it dry, you keep it fresh, a new spoonful every couple of days. You keep it where children and your dog and your barn cat cannot reach it, because while it will not poison your pets the way the store bait will, you want no animal eating it but the rat you set it for. And it is slow, and it is quiet. No smell of chemicals, no bright warning label, nothing the hawk or the cat can be poisoned by secondhand, because it is only baking soda and flour, the same things in your morning biscuit. The chain of hunters stays whole. The owl can eat that rat and come to no harm at all. There is no $30 refill. There is a $1 box that has been in every kitchen in America for 100 years, doing this quietly in plain homes the whole time the rest of the country was being sold, something it never needed. I want you to sit with how plain that is. The most stubborn rat problem in your house, the kind that sends people to spend $300 on a professional, undone by the cheapest thing on the baking shelf, working on a flaw in the rat's own body that has not changed in 10,000 years. They never told you. They had every reason not to. A man who knows about the dollar box does not buy the $40 one. This was never a secret because it was hard. It was a secret because it was free. The knowledge did not disappear. It was buried a little at a time under every bright package and every clever advertisement until a whole country forgot what its own great-grandmothers kept in a tin on the high shelf. My people simply never stopped using it. We were too far from the store, too plain in our ways, too unwilling to pay for what the good Lord and a little baking soda already gave us for nothing. So let me give you the whole of it, plain, the way I would tell my own neighbor over the fence. Take your flashlight tonight and find the greasy roads along your walls. That is where they travel. Crawl your foundation this weekend with a $1 bag of steel wool and pack every hole a quarter could pass, because a sealed house has nothing to fight. Set your peppermint cotton balls at the doorways of their world to push them where you want them and freshen them weekly. Set your traps on set for 3 days so their fear fades, then bait them on the 4th night, tight to the wall, trigger to the wall, on the greasy road. Build the bucket for the nights the numbers are bad. And when they have dug in deep and nothing else will move them, bring down the baking soda, mixed 1 to 1 to 1 with flour and sugar, and let the one thing the rat cannot do finish the job for you. Not one part of that costs more than a cup of coffee. Not one part of it puts a single dollar in the pocket of a man who wants you scared, independent, and coming back month after month. That is the whole difference between their way and ours. Their way needs you to lose so they can win. Our way just needs you to know what your great-grandparents knew, and that is what you have got back today. Not a product, not a subscription, a piece of knowledge that was quietly taken from you and sold back to you $40 at a time for most of your life. It belonged to your own people once before the bright boxes, and now it belongs to you again. You are not a customer for this problem anymore. You never had to be. That is who you are if you are still here with me. You are one of the folks who will not keep paying, and paying for what nature and a dollar box already hand you for free. Who would rather know a thing than be sold a thing? Who looks at a $40 package and thinks, my grandmother had a better answer than this? There are more of us than the industry would like, and we are remembering. So do this for me now. Go back up to the comments and tell me your state or your county, like I asked you at the start, because a man in a dry Texas town fights a different rat than a man in a wet Ohio bottom, and I read every one of those, and it tells me what to teach next. And tell me one more thing while you are there. Tell me which one you are going to try first, the bucket or the baking soda. Type it right out. I want to see it. This old knowledge stays alive by being passed hand to hand the way my grandfather passed it to me in a lantern-lit barn, and your comment is how it gets passed to the next person who needs it. If this was the first time anybody ever told you the plain truth about all this, then come along with us, not to support some channel, to stand with the folks who are digging up the practical, plain living knowledge that got buried and putting it back into ordinary hands where it belongs. Because next time, I am going to show you the one thing we always planted along the foundation of the barn, an ordinary plant you can grow from a few cents of seed that rats and mice will not cross. My grandfather called it the green fence. The English rip it out as a weed, and It kept the mice out of our grain every winter of my childhood for nothing at all. I will show you exactly what it is and exactly where to plant it the next time we talk. Until then, go find your greasy roads and keep your dollars where they belong, in your own pocket.